this is something you vibe with. So, today's video is going to be the first video. So, today's video is going to be the first video in a series of unsolved Canadian murders. Our first case takes place quite close to my hometown. Our first case takes place in the late 90s and early 2000s in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, Canada. Not to be lighthearted, but it's just ironic I picked up this hat today when I was going to film because I didn't wash my hair yet. So, our first case takes place in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia in 1999, and it is the unsolved murder of 19-year-old Jason McCullough. So, let's just start off by talking about who Jason was known to be as a person, because from everyone's perspective that was interviewed about him and who he was, he seems to have been a pretty upstanding young man, if you do ask me. So Jason was only 19 when he was murdered. So he was 19 and under when all of these people had these opinions of him, and all of these things were true. So he was widely known in the community. He both was widely known in his own community because he would frequently help all of the older people in the community with things that they needed help with, like snow removal, lawn care, bringing in the groceries, taking care of things that maybe you can't take care of as easily when you're older, like physical tasks around the house, things like that. He would help them all out and had a great reputation in his direct home community and with the seniors in the community, because they knew that he would help them out if they needed any help. So they had nothing but wonderful things to say. His younger cousin Vanessa, who would have been 12 at the time, even said that as a cousin, Jason was wonderful because he never treated her like an annoying little cousin or like someone who was in the way. He would make her feel included and part of the group, and as though she was welcome and wanted. He was said to be one of the sweetest people that she could ever hope to meet, and that he would literally give you the shirt off his back, which apparently had actually happened on one occasion for a person in need. He had also worked at a local gas station and was known widely for his great customer service and his positive attitude. He had also received early admission to both St. Mary's and Dalhousie universities in Halifax, which is a pretty big deal. I mean, that's good, you guys. That's good. It's a pretty big deal. And not relying on anyone's help, and not relying on his family to pay for it. Jason had hoped to enroll in the Canadian Navy to then get his education, post-secondary, subsidized by the government after his service. 1999, less than 6 blocks away from his home in North End, Dartmouth. Jason McCullough was shot at point-blank range in the back of the head at 1:30 a.m. in the morning. Jason had just left a party less than 1 kilometer away from his family home and had taken a well-worn path that ran behind a set of duplexes in a residential area. Jason had traveled this path many times safely in his life, but sadly, this time, his short journey would never see his end. At 2:30 a.m., his body was discovered on the trail by police after reports had been made of shots that had rang out in the area at 1:30 a.m., followed by footsteps running away from the scene of the crime. Residents in the local houses and residing in the duplexes beside the trail had all verified this information with the police, and it resulted in them finding Jason's body rather quickly after his murder. However, as we spoke about at the beginning of the video, Jason was an upstanding young man. He had no connections to anything seedy or untoward or that would have gotten him in this type of situation. He had no connections to anything that would have resulted in this happening to end his life. So the police really had nowhere to start when looking for leads and suspects. So the case to figure out who would have murdered Jason started off with an immediate block. There was nowhere to go to even start looking for who may have done this heinous crime. On August 29th of 1999, Jason's parents, Alan and Carolyn McCullough, held a press conference with the police, begging for any information about the situation of Jason's murder and for anyone to come forward if they knew anything. Jason's father refused to blame his son's murder on the high crime area of North End, Dartmouth that they had lived in safely for 19 years. He believed that there was something else to blame and refused to blame the community that he lived in as a whole. However, there was a thing with the community and the police where there were tensions between the two, and because of this, people didn't like to talk to the police about anything that went on in the community. So his parents knew and the police knew that this would be an issue with this case, and unfortunately it seems to have continued to be an issue with this case even all these years later in 2022. So, according to Stats Canada, Jason's murder was one of 100 Nova Scotia had experienced a drastic rise in violent crime, and that led to the development of this program. Even though Jason's murder is a part of this program, no one has been able to solve it to date. And Jason's murder is drastically different than many of the other murders on this list because there is no motive. He made it to 19 and he was never involved in any criminal activity or any activity that would suggest that he would be involved in anything, as I said, that would result in this type of violent end to his life. So again, this is all just factors that led to this case remaining unsolved for so long. Local police had also stated that the location of the murder was highly unusual because it was in such a densely populated residential area. Although the neighborhood in northern Dartmouth in the 90s was described as a bit run down, in need of some repairs, a little bit lower rent, it wouldn't have been described as the worst or most violent place to live in the area at the time. Jason would have also felt very safe and comfortable walking a path that he had walked hundreds of times before in his life without incident. It was a well-worn path. Many people in the community used it frequently, and it was right next to public basketball courts, townhouses, apartment buildings, in a well-lit residential area. So you wouldn't have felt unsafe or at threat of violence in this area at all. It felt like a safe environment for him. It was the quickest way home. So he wouldn't have felt like there was a threat of violence there at all. The police do believe, however, as I had mentioned before, that tension between community and police, the not wanting to say anything to police officials about anything that goes on in the community, was probably a factor, and many residents of the area probably did witness Jason's murder, but because of this, never felt comfortable coming forward and saying anything about it. Where the area was so densely populated, they believe it's highly unlikely that there were no actual witnesses to Jason McCullough's murder, and that people just have not felt comfortable yet coming forward. They are hoping, however, that having so much time pass may make someone more comfortable in coming forward in the present time to help bring some resolution to this case. So guys, Jason's case was even handled by Tom Martin, who was considered Halifax Regional Police Force's most experienced officer at the time, and he had handled over 500 major crime cases at this point in his career, bringing resolution to many. However, he worked this case from night 1, August 28th, 1999, the night of Jason McCullough's murder, until the day of his retirement in 2008, interviewing over 250 different individuals in relation to this case, and never being able to find full resolution. In the first year of investigation, there was some hope for resolution when the Halifax Regional Police Force released a composite sketch of 5 suspects who were seen in the area and were considered persons of interest. A defunct news production from Halifax, the Daily News, had actually controversially released the names of 4 of those men in their publication. These men had been seen and had been charged for crimes committed in the area, actually just on Pinecrest, which was a few hundred meters from the path where Jason was murdered, and around the same time. 3 of those men had broken into the homes of 2 acquaintances, pointing guns, issuing threats, stealing belongings, and making off with money. These men had later been charged for those crimes, but had never been charged or questioned in relation to Jason's murder, which had happened in the exact same vicinity at around the same time. So I'm not sure really what went on there and why they weren't questioned in relation to that. But again, probably because no one came forward stating that they had seen anyone in particular. And I mean, you can't just question someone about something, without proof or anything like that. You know what I mean? You can't detain someone without proof of relation to the crime. So I guess if someone would have said something, they may have been questioned about it, but up to this point, I guess that hasn't happened. There was also another tip issued to police in April of 2005. So April of 2005, about a woman who may have been present at Highfield Park on the night of Jason's murder, but the woman was never found. No one ever came forward in relation to who she might be in particular, so the police were never able to question her about whether she was or wasn't present and whether she did or didn't see anything in relation to the case. So yet another tip that was unable to be resolved in relation to the case. Tom Martin would tell the publication The Coast that this was the year that they came extremely close to a break in the case of Jason McCullough's murder. However, that break never came, and shortly after this, the task force that had been working on murders like Jason's was disbanded. When the cold case task force was disbanded, Martin expressed real fears about what would happen to cases like Jason's in Nova Scotia. Without the task force, it would really take the right person to come forward and admit that they had seen something, and he knew what the likelihood of something like that happening in cases like these might be because of that tension between police and community. He put forward a plea in a publication called The Coast, in an interview that he did, that anyone who may have information, please consider how they would feel if they were the family of Jason McCullough or the family of other people in similar situations. Would they not want to know? Would they not want someone to come forward and let them know what had happened in this horrific situation? He pleaded with the public to just come forward and bring some resolution to Alan and Carolyn McCullough so that they could have some resolution as to what happened to their son Jason, and so that other people in similar cases in the province could also have some resolution to things that happened to their loved ones in the province in the previous years. Police continued to post Jason's photo yearly, and the reward of $150,000 for tips leading to arrest and conviction of anyone in relation to Jason's murder is still available. They post it yearly and are looking and begging people to come forward in relation to this case to this day. At the end of the video, I will list the references in case anyone you know. 1 in a million chance, but who knows, in case. Nova Scotia, but we did real, like, live action remakes, reenact, like on Unsolved Mysteries or on Most Wanted programs where you recreate the crime with actors. We do that, and ask for information in relation to the crime. So they had even had a Crime Stoppers video made up in relation to Jason's murder, and nothing had ever come to a resolution from that either, unfortunately. Although there was never anyone laid to blame up to this point in Jason McCullough's murder, there have been a few things done to memorialize him in his community. The park where Jason lost his life has been renamed from Highfield Park to Jason McCullough Memorial Park, and the institutions in the community that he worked with in his youth, Scouts and the Boys and Girls Club, have also remembered him throughout the years in various ways, including a community walk that is held every year in Jason's honor, as well as in the honor and remembrance of other people who have lost their lives to violent crimes in the area. So the Boys and Girls Club that Jason was a member of in his youth had organized an annual event for people who had lost family members to violent crimes. So the Dartmouth institution had organized the annual walk against violence, which drew out hundreds of community members who had lost family members and loved ones, officials in the area who supported the cause and hoped to end violence in the area as well. In 2018, over 200 people were in attendance at the 2-kilometer walk through Highfield Park to support people who had lost their loved ones to violent crimes. Jason's parents would say that it was on this night that they truly felt as though they weren't alone and that they were surrounded by people who genuinely cared, and that they felt the true pain of what it was that they have had to experience for all of this time, which is just absolutely heartbreaking. But it is a wonderful tribute that happens yearly, and I'm sure that many more people who attend this walk feel exactly as Jason's parents do, then get to vocalize it. The Boys and Girls Club have kept this tradition going for 21 years in Jason's memory. To this day, they still remember what a guiding light he was in the community, and they want his memory to continue to be a guiding light for others in similar situations, and to try to stop the senseless violence that happens in the area. I truly hope that someday soon someone comes forward with some information to bring some resolution to Alan and Carolyn McCullough. I know it must be absolute hell to not know who is responsible for claiming the life of someone you love. I will list information in the description box below for the resources that are still available. If you have any information in regards to this case, please come forward. It's the decent thing to do. I hope you guys have enjoyed learning about this case. If you're still here at the end of this video, I appreciate you resources in the description box at the end of my description. And if you know anything about any case like this, be sure to tell people what you know. For now, guys, that's it for tonight. This has been the unsolved case of the murder of Jason McCullough from 1999. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and it has been relaxing for you and educational. I hope that you enjoy this type of content, and I'll be back with another video soon. As you can see, I have a different microphone. It may have taken a little while for this video to get posted, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm putting a lot of research into these, so I hope that matters for something, because I care and I want to be accurate. But until next time, guys, I hope you have a great night. I hope that all is well.